Many thanks for choosing us. The Ghana Police Service has announced the arrest of a radio presenter, Bobbie Ansah of the Accra FM. The Accra Regional Police Command says they picked him up in connection with an alleged case of publication of false news and offensive conduct. The police added his arrest became necessary after he turned down several invitations from the police to him and others involved in the case to assist with investigations. Our court correspondent Joseph Akable is on this beat for us. He joins me via Zoom. Joseph, what do we know about this arrest? All right, so let's update you on what has brought us here. Then we can speak with Joseph Akable.
Broadcaster Bobbie Ansah, we understand, is being held at the Accra Central Police Station. It's not clear at this stage whether charges have been leveled or what exactly he's been accused of. But from what we have picked up from a few of his colleagues, he was picked up shortly after ending his political show on the Accra-based radio station. We understand he was taken initially to the Nima police station where he spent the night. Then early on Friday morning, he was moved over here to the Accra Central Police Station. He's been specifically held at the Striking Force Division, where the charge office specifically is where he's been kept. A few of his colleagues who spent the night at the Nima police station are also at the Central Police Station here to monitor proceedings. We understand from our sources within the police that a statement may be issued in the course of the day, either at the regional level or at the national police with regards to the events leading to this particular incident. And this has happened at a time in a space of 7 days where we have seen first a journalist of Power FM being sentenced to spend 14 days in jail by a court here in Accra. Again, we've also seen the executive director of Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, ASEPA, also being charged for publication of false news. These are isolated and unconnected events, but they will definitely form the base of a lot of the discussions that will take place in the coming hours. For joining us from the Accra Central Police Station, Joseph Akable reporting.
Joseph Akable has joined me in the studio with more on this. Joseph, what do we know about this arrest?
And so, first, there's a statement that has come from the Ghana Police Service. It was actually put on the Facebook page. It indicates that Bobbie Ansah arrested for publication of false news. Mr. Bobbie Ansah of Accra FM was arrested yesterday, February 10, 2022, by the Accra Regional Police Command in connection with allegations of publication of false news and offensive conduct. The police service indicates that the arrest became necessary after he had turned down several invitations from the police to him and others involved in the case to assist with investigations. The regional command will issue a full statement on the matter in due course. In terms of the nature or the manner of that arrest, we understand that he was picked up at the radio station shortly after he had completed his political talk show program. He was taken to the Nima police station where he spent the night. Then, early Friday morning, he was moved to the Accra Central Police Station. And that is where he's currently being held. A few of his colleagues were present at the Nima Police Station. They spent the night there. They followed up at the Accra Central Police Station, where they are still there presently. What is happening is that lawyers are trying to get in touch with the police authorities to ensure that if it's the case that is going to be taken to the court today is taken, or if at any point in time they can get the police to grant him an inquiry bill, that will also be done as well.
Well, 3 journalists have been picked up in less than 2 months. Is this trend worrying, or is it that journalists are being irresponsible? We've been joined by Suleiman Abrahima via Zoom for more on this. Mr. Abrahima, I'm grateful for your time. All right, so we'll get Suleiman Abrahima to join for this, but Joseph Akable is still here with me. So have journalists, particularly, how are they reacting to this? This is not the first time. I mean, in just a few spate of time,
in fact, in just the last couple of days, and so, I mean, they all brought around the same events, really. So first, we had this gentleman who works at Power FM who was taken to court, cited for contempt, actually. He is currently at Nsaum serving a 14-day jail term. And so that was the first incident we had in this particular week alone. Then the second one being the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability boss. He was taken to the court, to the Kaneshie District Court, and charged with offensive conduct and also publication of false news. He has been granted bail. And so that's the second incident that happened at this time around. There's also the bit about the Connect FM journalist who was allegedly beaten by police officers in the Western region. So there are those who hold the view that there's the potential that people are engaged in irresponsible journalism of sort, and there are others who also hold the view that, I mean, it's actually the case of one too many events of police or security agency or officials of security agencies arresting individuals, and that is creating an impression in their minds that it appears certain individuals are not comfortable with the work that journalists are doing. You cannot forget that of Captain Smart too. It's another one that came up. It followed some allegations that even involved the roads minister. The police investigated it and cleared the roads minister and indicated they were going to charge Captain Smart. And so that is also another issue that has come up. And so it's still the age-long discussion of what should the borderline be. I mean, yes, journalists should be responsible, but are we seeing the state be using this publication of false news in a manner as against allowing persons who feel aggrieved to take defamatory actions against the journalist? Or perhaps Mr. Brima was speaking on SMS earlier, making a point that why are people not using the independent media organization, so like the National Media Commission? If a journalist carries out his work in a manner that it's not the very best, you should take that person to the National Media Commission, as against creating a situation where the charges of publication of false news becomes a new form of the criminal libel law, even though he emphasized that reckless journalism has no place in the practice.
Do we know when he will be arraigned before court?
We don't know that for now. The police have indicated that another statement will come that will be more detailed and give some background and put it in appropriate context, and we have a lot of these questions answered.
Thankfully, Suleiman Brima of Media Foundation for West Africa has joined us via Zoom. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Suleiman Brima. Are journalists being targeted, or we're being irresponsible?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer, but we are seeing evidence of perhaps both. Indeed, any observer of the media landscape cannot but conclude that increasingly we are seeing a lot of excesses, reckless, unprofessional conduct by persons who either appear on platforms or are hosts of media programs, and this is particularly on radio and television. And I think it is simply an amplification of the kind of partisanship that we have in our country. And in most instances, it is not what I would call pure journalism, but essentially political advocacy on radio or on television by certain partisan actors. And that's where we see a lot of the excesses happening. So the first part of the question, yes, there's evidence to that in terms of the recklessness. But of course, there are other media organizations and journalists who are also discharging their responsibilities so professionally. Even as we may say, being human beings, once in a while, there may be some slips here or there. But in terms of the targeting, I say also there is some evidence of that, because over the period, we've seen quite a number of incidents that are certainly unjustifiable by persons who are state actors, and in this case, national security officials. We've seen the incident in Asankragwa where Tabiri was brutalized to almost death. We've seen the incident involving modern Ghana journalists and the attack on their offices. We've seen the ambush of David Tamaklo of WhatsApp News for a claim that he had published false information, when indeed the material for which he was being arrested had not yet been published. And the arrest was on the basis that somebody that the platform or the news organization was investigating had made a complaint to the police. And again, if we take the whole provision on publication of false news, it is a publication that has always been in existence. Since the repeal of the criminal libel law, that particular provision had not been repealed, and so it was in existence. So under President Kufuor, under Mills, under Mahama, I don't think that we want to believe that this is the only time that we've had people appearing in media and propagating or publishing or broadcasting content that are found to be false. And that is why I think that, again, the other problem is the non-functioning or ineffectiveness of the National Media Commission. So there is some semblance of targeting. We saw the NCA shut down in a politically motivated way a number of radio stations that were aligned to the opposition. We see the same conduct being exhibited on a number of platforms, and yet nothing happens to persons on those platforms who perpetrate the same kinds of unprofessional conduct and recklessness. And so to that extent, one cannot but conclude that there is some evidence or some semblance of some media organizations or some persons being targeted. Unfortunately, here you are this time.
We are being targeted or we are being irresponsible ourselves. How do you want this resolved on the part of the journalists and also on the part of state agencies? Well,
I think that we have to look at it from multiple dimensions. One, the National Communications Authority, that is the body that issues frequencies to media organizations. I don't know the basis on which for a country of 30 million people, we currently have over, close to 800 radio stations. And in terms of frequencies that have been issued, I believe it is even more than that. What are the credentials and the evidence that people submit to prove that they have the capacity to be able to operate media organizations? Now, what we are witnessing, as I said, is just an amplification of the partisanship that has characterized our discourse as a country. And so radio stations frequencies are being given to political activists, to established media organizations, purely for political propaganda. And when that happens, certainly you don't expect to see these platforms being used for the purposes of journalism, but indeed what you would have is the kind of things that we are seeing. Whether it is the Power FM, whether it is Wuntumi Radio, whether it is Oman FM, whether it is XYZ, and so on and so forth. What predominantly happens is political propaganda, political discourse, attacks, and so on and so forth. So the question of ownership is so critical that we need to look at it. In fact, it is even done in secrecy. We did a study that showed that a lot of these media organizations are going, or frequencies are going to politicians. That is number one. Number two is that I think the National Media Commission has to assert itself, as a statutory media regulator. Increasingly, the functions of the NMC are being taken away. We know that the NMC has the mandate to ensure the highest journalistic standards. The government of the day says that it is allocating resources to build media capacity. And yet it is the Ministry of Information, the government PR ministry, that is saying that they are doing that development capacity for the media. The NMC is quiet. In fact, they participated. We were here when the Ministry of Communication wanted to even take over channels of GBC. We had to make noise before the NMC asserted its authority. So the NMC has a role to play so that people will begin to have confidence and trust in the institution, and where they feel offended or defamed, they can approach it for settlement. The other thing is that we ourselves as journalists must also accept the fact that, look, media freedom is guaranteed does not mean media recklessness is also guaranteed. If you commit crime, if you commit crime, it is of no consequence where you committed it and how you committed it. Crime is crime. If you sit on radio or on television, or you write in a newspaper, and what you do is criminal, of course, the law will deal with you. And then the media managers, the editors, sometimes you wonder whether there are editors in our newsrooms. If you listen to the kinds of things that are allowed to be aired, you wonder whether there are news leaders or media leaders in the newsrooms. So it's a multifaceted situation from our side or from the media side. But I think that the government has to also tone down, because increasingly we are seeing a government that is becoming quite oppressive. As I said, this is not the only government under which perhaps people are spewing things that can be said to be reckless, things that can be said to be false. If individuals are offended, let them go to court, sue for defamation, or go to the National Media Commission, file a petition, and seek for a resolution, or ask for, do a rejoinder and insist that the constitutional requirement requiring media organizations to publish rejoinders must be respected. But if we continue to see police officers, national security officers being deployed in the middle of the night, storming radio stations, picking up presenters, picking up program hosts, and so on and so forth, it certainly creates the impression that we have a government that wants to oppress the media, even if the people have done the wrong thing. So I think that the government is perhaps also getting quite jittery and maybe unleashing state power in a way that would certainly create the impression that we are getting into an autocratic situation rather than the democratic kind of governance that we all want for ourselves.
I'm grateful for your time. Suleiman Ibrahim, he's Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa.